Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller, my co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network, and holy shit, do we have a lot to talk about after Charlotte and the Coca-Cola 600 that got postponed to Monday and was full of action. I feel like every single week we have a ton to talk about, and this week is no different. Ryan Blaney snaps his winless streak, gets into victory lane, had the best car all day. It wasn't, I don't think it was close. Top 5 all day. Shout out to you calling it last week on Stacking Dennys here. The last week's episode talked about the Penske cars.
Bet it live on the show.
Yeah, you're betting them both, and Ryan Blaney gets the win. William Byron, after an amazing effort by his pit crew all race with that number 1 pit stall, he finishes second. Martin Truex Jr. third. Bubba Wallace fourth. Tyler Reddick fifth. First time ever that 2311 put both cars into the top 5. Kyle Busch, Stenhouse, Buescher, Austin Dillon, and Zane Smith rounding out the top 10. Shout out Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I believe that was also talked about on last week's episode. It might have been a discussion afterward, but definitely tracked. I know I tracked it 3-1 for his top 10. Love seeing that. But yeah, Ryan Blaney in victory lane, as you somewhat predicted, pretty much predicted, using physics and weather for those Fords. Nick, what did you think of that race? Think that was a good race?
Yeah, it was a good race, and it seems like from Jeff Gluck's poll that a lot of people thought it was a good race as well. I know I saw the poll early this morning, and it was like 92% or something like that. I don't know what the final results ended up being.
As of right now, it's 91. Basically.
Yeah, so pretty good. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a great race. You could run multiple grooves. You could pass for the lead. There was certainly no lack of chaos, and I know fans tend to like that when the racing and action happens. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was as good as Kansas, but it was definitely one of the better races of the year for sure. This car keeps delivering on these intermediates.
Yep. Sorry, I forgot my beer.
You're good.
So I had to run over and get that. But yeah, that's what I responded to Gluck's poll was they finally figured out this car on the mile and a halves, continues to deliver, and the Coca-Cola 600 was no different. Here's the thing. Anybody that did not think that was a good race, this is a 600-mile race. The fact that it was entertaining and that it was competitive for the entire race is the most significant portion of this. I don't care about the wrecks. I don't care about the drama. We had Eric Almirola and Bubba Wallace, getting into it on pit road during the race. We had plenty of wrecks. We had the Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, which we're going to get into. But overall, it was just good race. It was good racing. It was fun to watch. Like, I cannot stress enough how good these mile and a halves are. We see it time and time again. What sucks is there's only 6 races. There's 6 of the 36 are mile and a halves. They've nailed it with this car, with the mile and a halves, and unfortunately, it's only a small portion of the schedule. But when we get them, we have to enjoy them, and that's the fact of the matter. But yeah, Ryan Blaney snaps his winless streak. I tweeted out, I've been on a little tweeting spree today. Been getting a lot of fun discussions in my mentions today. But here's some stats for you. And I couldn't believe this when I looked it up. I could not. Best average finish over the last 6 races, Ryan Blaney, 6.3. Best average finish over the last 15 races, Ryan Blaney, 11.1. Best average finish over the last 36 races, an entire season, Ryan Blaney, 12.7. And one thing that I saw someone mention, with this tweet, I think they replied to it or they replied to somebody else, was that if Blaney would have made Phoenix and the final race last year, he would have won the championship. He had the best car last year. He played wingman to Joey Logano in that race. And I know we've talked about, I've said before, a few weeks ago that I agreed with Kyle Putty that Ryan Blaney is overrated. These stats still surprise me. I'm not going to sit here and say that Ryan Blaney is elite. I'm not going to sit here and say he is a true championship contender, but these stats are, I think, very surprising. And we talk about it a lot, how average finish does not matter a lot, but when you go over a 36 race sample size, it's a little bit more significant than it is, over a 6 race span. Because when we're looking at single tracks, we're looking over the last, 6 races at a single track can be 6 years. 6 races or 36 races overall is a year. That is a full season. So what Ryan Blaney is doing is solid. He's getting the finishes. Is he dominating? No. Is he winning? No, he hasn't. That's his first win in 50-something races. But at the same time, he's getting the job done, and I think it's noteworthy there. One thing that I have noticed this year, especially this year, Joey Logano is coming off that championship run last year. He got a second championship. There's a significant speed difference in. Yes. I feel like Penske Racing right now is 3 tiers. We got Blaney, who has weeks where he can win. He's top 5, solid. Then you got Joey Logano, where the weeks that he's good is about an 8th place car. The weeks that he's okay, he's about a 15th place car. And then you have Austin Cindric, who's in the 20s. And I don't get it. I don't understand the drop off that Joey Logano we have seen with Joey Logano this season. It's still not making sense to me. It actually reminds me, you remember last year when William Byron was testing, and yeah, that was our theory going on, and then I'm pretty sure they came out and said yes, he was testing. That's what this Joey Logano speed, because even this last week at Charlotte, Ryan Blaney was a top 5 car all day. He was a top 3 car all day. Joey Logano, while he had certain stints during that race that he was good, he was never going to win that race. He was just he was top 10 good. That's about it. So I don't get it. It's weird to me that how, like I said, 3 different drivers can have such different speed on the exact same team.
I agree with you. I mean, I wanted to still bet Joey 30-1 because you never know if they find something or if he's not testing, and just the different physics of this race. I thought maybe there was a chance that all of Penske was going to be good, and they were better. Joey was better. He wasn't great, but he was better than his flags number had been entering the race at the similar tracks. His flags was better this time, and same for Austin Cindric. His flags number was around 18th or 19th, something like that, and he's been in the 20s, lower 20s. So they both got better, but Blaney was the one who, instead of being around 8th, he was first, obviously. And so I agree with you. I think there's 3 separate tiers here. I don't know if it's Joey Logano testing. I mean, ideally, you'd want to start testing after your second win, not your first win. Right. So I'm not 100% sure on that. Like last year, Byron got that second win pretty early, which allowed him to be the test guy. He got his second win by the 8th race of the season. So that allowed him to be the test guy. And, like you said, and like we hypothesized, and then Hendrick basically came out and said, yeah, he's the test guy after the playoffs started. They didn't directly say it, but it was pretty well implied on a Byron interview. He's like, we can go for it now, something like that. Yeah. So I don't know if Joey's doing that. It's a little risky given that, 16 different winners. If he's the 16th, he's out. I don't think we're going to get there, but it could still get crazy. I mean, we just added a new winner here. Ross Chastain, the points leader, hasn't won. Kevin Harvick is 4th in points, hasn't won. We have Brad Keselowski, who's had potential race-winning cars, hasn't won. Chris Buescher hasn't won. Bubba Wallace hasn't won. He's been in contention. Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, Daniel Suarez. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that can still win at the normal tracks, and then you always add in, what could happen at maybe an Atlanta or a Daytona where even more guys could win. So I wouldn't say Joey Logano is totally safe set yet, so I'm not sure they're testing. I think maybe there's just 3 tiers.
I think I don't think he's testing either, but I think if he would be testing right now, it's because they were so off at Phoenix. Like they lost so much ground at Phoenix, and that's the only way they're going to win the championship. But another team that I don't think they're testing either, but I still don't get it. Chase Briscoe is so bad at intermediates this year. It is unbelievable how slow he is. BJ McLeod was legitimately faster than Chase Briscoe. Here's the thing with Chase Briscoe, though. He just survives the race and then ends up with a top 20 finish. And at one point, with 15 laps to go, he was running 12th. Then he slid back to whatever he finished 21st or whatever. But again, I don't understand what the hell is going on with that team either. Makes no sense to me at all, especially with how Ryan Preece and Eric Almirola, they seem to be getting better, like especially as the races go on. But Chase Briscoe, they are just ridiculously bad. I will be forever searching for why that is happening with that team. But sticking with Ford camp here, Zane Smith gets a top 10 in that front row motorsports car. Have to talk about this, both him and Todd Gilliland. So Todd Gilliland, he loses his ride for a few races this year. He gets bumped over to the Rick Ware racing car to make room for Zane Smith getting seat time. Todd Gilliland was 18% owned in the big GPP, and people want to say that there's no edge in DFS.
Yeah, exactly. That was ridiculous. I mean, he's going over to the 51. He's not in that typical car, and I mean, I think he dropped the cylinder right at the start of the race or something because he was way off the pace, and then he ended up retiring from the race in 33rd anyway. But that was terrible, and not his fault. Anything. It's just he was in the 51, and that thing's a shitbox.
Yeah, the only person that had a worse driver rating in that race than Todd Gilliland was Jimmy Johnson, who started dead last, had wrecked like 4 times. So I couldn't believe it. Like at the start of the race, I was heading over to my friend's house, and then I got a tweet, and they're like, Todd Gilliland's 18% owned, and I'm like, no way. No way. Like, why are people doing this? But hey, it is what it is. But hey, JJ Yaley, someone we have to talk about, finished 16th in that Rick Ware racing car. One of those guys that tends to stay out of trouble, and he did this race. Like, that's kind of what the Coke 600 has turned into, is a survival, because it's such a long race. We saw what, 15 cautions.
17,
overall,
16.
Was it more than that?
16 cautions, 16 for 83 laps. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, but biggest news, obviously, you knew we had to get into it. Chase Elliott.
We're not supposed to get into it. We're just supposed to talk bets, Jordan.
Yeah. Do you want to just talk bets? We can make this a 10-minute episode. I'm fine with that.
Here's the best part. I don't know what the hell to bet for Gateway. So, if you're listening for bets, you may just want to skip this episode. By the way, that's ridiculous. Like, you and I are doing this podcast because we want to do it. We're not sitting here trying to become big and famous and have this gazillion listener podcast. I understand a large part of our audience is betting, the vast majority, like I would say 95% plus, is betting DFS related. But if that's all we wanted to do, that's what we would do. But you and I want to do these other things. We want to talk. It's almost just a way for you and I to sit down and talk NASCAR, because we love to talk NASCAR. And if anybody wants to listen, great. But we're not going to sit here and say, here's our 10 bets and the show's over, or here's 5 DFS plays and the show's over. No, we've evolved the show the way we want to do it. And if you don't want to listen, that's fine. Click the next podcast. Skip it. Who cares?
There's plenty of them. Yeah, if we were just gonna talk about bets and just talk about DFS, we'd record this show on Friday or Saturday. Like, we're talking about this on Tuesday. Like, that's why we record this when we do. And
here's the other thing. It's not like you can't find our betting content elsewhere. I mean, you have betting and DFS content at RotoBaller. I have betting and DFS content at Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I have another podcast that I do. There's the Discord that I'm in. We tweet things out, track bets in the Action app. Like, you're going to find our betting content. So this is a little different for us. This is what we like to do because we enjoy it. Like, it's just straight up. That's all it is. Like, it's kind of funny when people tell us how our podcast should be, because this is our podcast. We're not,
right.
Even though we are kind of doing it for other people and that people like to listen and we're putting it out there, we're doing it for ourselves, really. Let's be real. Like, this is something you and I enjoy doing. And if people like to listen, that's great. We love it. We appreciate it. But if you don't want to listen, that's totally okay too.
100%. But, not to get too far down that rabbit hole, I don't want to throw a little temper tantrum on that. But someone who did throw a temper tantrum was Chase Elliott at Charlotte. And wrecking. Denny Hamlin pushed him up, got him into the wall, and Elliott pulled a Bubba Wallace from Las Vegas last year, hooked Hamlin, sent him. Honestly, you look at the in-car camera from that wreck. You look at just the replay of that wreck. That was a fucking hit that Hamlin took. Mm-hmm. He said he said today, which would be Tuesday, that he can't move his neck really because of that. Like, we've talked about the safety of this car and how it lacks safety features. That was a hard wreck, and I can't believe, one, the number of people that look at that replay and say Chase Elliott did nothing wrong. Two, the number of people that look at that replay and say, well, he deserved it, or Hamlin deserved it because he put Elliott into the wall. And three, like, all of the excuses, just overall, all the excuses that people are making for Chase Elliott, when 1 year ago at Las Vegas, you're saying Bubba Wallace should be just kicked out of NASCAR for it. Make it make sense. I understand that these drivers like Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain have fanboys. They have super fans that are going to defend them no matter what they do. This, by the way, this is my whine about it. How do you look at that situation and say that's not messed up? Like, I don't get it. Chase Elliott straight up hooked him. I don't care what you say. And NASCAR completely agreed. Here's the thing, though. You and I have been critical of NASCAR before. Is there room? Is there room in your head? Is there any doubts in your head that what Chase Elliott did was not intentional?
0.0% doubt. None. It was 100% intentional. It's not a doubt in my mind. There's no questioning it. All the evidence points to it. There's a very good slow-mo video of it from the front where you see Chase Elliott. He bounces off the wall, and then he drives straight like you would normally, and then he decides to turn left. And again, this is before Brad Keselowski hits him. There's literally no doubt. None.
Yeah, the people that say Keselowski...
Even Hendrick Motorsports said, we agree with NASCAR trying to be consistent on this. So what more needs to be said?
Yeah. The people that are blaming Keselowski, saying he turned Elliott, no, that is completely out. Like, there are things with the camera angles and everything. You just have to look at alternate angles. You will see that Keselowski did not cause that whatsoever. The contact was made after Chase was already into Hamlin. Yep. The only screenshots that I saw that could have changed my mind was the toe link being broken, and there was some screenshot that someone was trying to say caused it. No, it's not there. No. I mean, Denny Hamlin, an hour after the wreck happened, got the SMT data, posted it on Twitter, just like everyone expected he would. Like, I hated Denny Hamlin. I'm still not a huge fan of Denny Hamlin, but I am. Like, it's weird. Like, I'm not a fan, but I'm a fan. It's probably the best way for me to describe what I think of Denny Hamlin right now. What he's doing is what NASCAR needs. He is the Ross Chastain of telling the truth. Ross Chastain doesn't tell the truth. He wrecks somebody and says, "Oh, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to get into you." Denny Hamlin just sits out there and tells the truth. He goes out there and tweets the data, and then turns his comments off, which, is probably a good move on his part. But, Dale Jr. on his podcast said, I probably wouldn't have tweeted that out. That's because Dale Jr. is Chase Elliott, the previous version of Chase Elliott, who doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. Fact of the matter is, though, the most popular driver in NASCAR is suspended for a race. Do you think that has any implications on the sport itself? Does this get people talking like Ross Chastain fucking up races for people does?
I don't know.
Because not to mention Corey LaJoie now gets the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for years. If only Corey LaJoie could get a good ride. Hey, buddy, I hope you don't fuck this up. I hope you don't fuck this up. I want to see you go out there and actually contend for a top 5. I don't think you can contend for the win. But hey, here's your chance. You've been talking about this.
He needs to be
in the mix. LaJoie has been talking about this.
He needs to be in the mix in the top 10 in speed.
Absolutely does. And if he doesn't, he's going to walk away with a bunch of egg on his face.
there's no Josh Berry excuse here where he hasn't been in these cars or this series or anything like that. So he has to be in the mix in the top 10 in speed. But to your point, does this move the needle in terms of NASCAR stuff? I don't think so. I mean, Chase Elliott got injured and missed 6 races. The TV ratings didn't plummet. They didn't suddenly come back up when he came back. There was none of that. There was no Chase Elliott effect on TV ratings. None. And I got tweets saying there was, and like it's literally not in the data. Like people, Chase Elliott fanboys, and I was like, oh, well, it makes sense. Look at his bio. It's a Chase Elliott bio. It's like they just don't, a lot of Chase Elliott fans. I'm not saying all. I'm not even saying most, but a lot. I mean, if there's 5 million of them and 1 million of them don't live in reality, that's still a lot. There's a lot that don't live in reality, and they won't look at data. They won't look at TV rating data, attendance data, SMT data, video data. They just cannot say their golden boy did anything wrong ever, and somehow, they think him being suspended is the worst thing in the world. It's going to end NASCAR. And like, no, not even close. If anything, this is good for NASCAR because it shows they're willing to apply the same penalty to anybody. All 36 plus drivers in that field, they will apply the exact same penalty. So, I don't necessarily think it changes anything for NASCAR, but the precedent is set and now it's been followed, and I expect it to continue to be followed. One situation, Carson Hocevar, who is now getting his Cup debut. He right hooked somebody in the race. We were sponsoring Malazzi, Stephen Malazzi there. He right rear hooked somebody, but it was at Martinsville. The only reason they didn't suspend Hocevar is because they in-race penalized him because he actually didn't damage his car enough. Like when Bubba right hooked Larson and when Elliott right hooked Hamlin, they both ended their races anyway because of crash damage. At Martinsville, it was so slow, and he kind of just spun himself out. He actually failed his intentional right hook attempt. That's how terrible it was for Hocevar. But he spun himself out, caused a caution. He kept going. So NASCAR held him 2 laps, and they said that's enough penalty there in that situation. But I think had he crash damaged himself, he probably gets suspended a race as well. Now, I don't know technically what the precedent for NASCAR is, if it's like a half-mile track versus on the straightaway in a dog leg of a mile and a half. I don't know if they'd change that, but in my opinion, it shouldn't matter what the track is. Last year, Noah Gragson got away with it when he hooked Sage Karam in front of the whole field at Road America. And in that case, it's a left hook because it sent him that other direction, but, and he didn't get suspended. So there is still some gray area, I guess, with track situation, whatever, but at least NASCAR is consistent between Bubba and Chase Elliott. And I think they do the exact same thing if they see a right rear hook out of 1.5 miler, pretty much anywhere on the track.
And honestly, I was a little surprised that they actually suspended Chase Elliott. I did not. I tweeted it out on Monday. I was like, I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to find a way not to. And, news broke today that, yep, you're out for a race. One comparison that I saw, though, was why doesn't Ross Chastain get suspended for the same shit? And not to defend Ross Chastain, but his are not as intentional, and that's why.
Yeah.
What Bubba Wallace did to Larson and what Chase Elliott did to Denny Hamlin were straight up, we are ending your day. Ross Chastain, it's not, I don't know how to fully explain it. Like, just talking. It's just different. And I know that's the case that Chase Elliott fans were trying to make here. Oh, like the number of times that I've seen people say he put Hamlin in the wall, so Hamlin deserved it. No, nobody deserved to get hooked in the right rear, sent straight into the wall. Like, nobody deserves that. I don't care what you say. Like, to think that is just pure delusion. That's fandom delusion. In that sense, it's absolutely insane. But overall, yes, very good race. More 1.5 miles, please. If we're gonna stick with this race car, please, more 1.5 miles. One guy that had a very good race car that led 48 laps, but just like it seemed like half the wrecks he was somehow involved in. Christopher Bell, second in stage 1, sixth in stage 2, ended up finishing 24th. He led 48 laps. I don't think anybody can take it away from him. He had from me watching that, just watching it. I wasn't watching lap times or anything. I was watching it on TV. That was probably the best I've seen Christopher Bell run in a while. Because talked about him his tendency to not dominate races. That's the best I've seen Christopher Bell run in a while. So sucks for them, the issues that they had. Same as Brad Keselowski. He finished 19th. He had a solid top 5, top 10 car.
Yeah.
Overall, but yeah, like guys like Ricky Stenhouse though, got to give him another shout out.
He had a great race. He was inside the top 12 the whole day. The whole day. I mean, maybe a few laps here and there, but you know what I mean. He was pretty much a top 12 car the whole race. You absolutely have to shout that out. Got to shout out RFK Racing as a whole. Chris Buescher had a strong day as well. And you mentioned Chase Briscoe and just how bad they are. That Austin Dillon versus Chase Briscoe bet wasn't even close. It looked like it was close at the end, but remember, Austin Dillon had those fresh tires, and
I was waiting
Briscoe team is just out to lunch.
I was waiting for Austin Dillon to somehow screw that up. Like
I know.
I was like, Austin Dillon's like ahead of Briscoe, literally 95% of that race, and I was just waiting on that final restart. I'm like, I live bet Blaney 7-1. I had Stenhouse top 10, and he was 9th on that final restart. And then Austin Dillon and Briscoe were neck and neck on that final restart. I'm like, this entire day is going to go to shit. Like, this is how my season's going. This entire day is going to shit. How's this going to all fuck up? Somehow, they all 3 won, and which was it was amazing. But thank you, Austin Dillon. I hate you a little bit less, maybe.
By the way, you know who was dock blocked this past weekend? Denny Hamlin.
Have you made your
Chase Elliott right reared?
Have you made your random pick yet? I'm waiting for it to be the 9.
I was saving it for this segment. Yeah, it's gonna be the 9. Like it's gonna be like the 9 is dock blocked, and it's already like preemptive dock blocked because of his suspension.
Gosh. But, yeah. Moving on though.
Save that for the end.
Yeah. So moving on, just a second. Our segment of how many races since Ross Chastain has won. It has been 40 races since Ross Chastain has won a race. And just want to point it out now that Ryan Blaney has got to victory lane. The only other driver that has more races without a win is Brad Keselowski, as far as the good drivers. Right, which, by the way, I've decided today I'm going to go. This is my project for the week. I'm going to go through and because there's no updated list week by week of how long winless streaks are in NASCAR. So I'm going to go make it. I'm going to publish that. And I'm going to update it every week. But yeah, so Keselowski, who went through a shit year with RFK, is now getting good cars. But Ross Chastain second on that list with 40 races without a win. I know he's leading the points, but yeah, they don't hand out championships for points leading in May. So
I was gonna say though, like the argument you could apply to Ross Chastain, you could have applied to Blaney lately, but not anymore.
Could have.
Blaney kicked everybody's ass this past week.
Yes. And one more shout out from that race. Bubba Wallace, another top 5. That's 3 straight top 5s for that team. 4 if you include the All-Star race. Mm-hmm. They haven't figured out on mile and a halves. He could definitely still win. Like it would not be. Sure. It would not surprise me at all if Bubba Wallace wins this year on a mile and a half.
He's back in the playoffs picture in terms of like the cut line. He's above the cut line right now. That's huge. 3 races ago he was in the 20s, and now he's 15th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So moving on to standings update. Ross Chastain still the points leader after I'll tell you what. He did not look good. One, he did not look good in the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. He did not look good at Charlotte, which was surprising because Suarez throughout the beginning, and I think he got in a wreck or he had an issue or something. Suarez looked good. Suarez is good at Charlotte. Ross Chastain did not look good. Ross Chastain did not look good at the All-Star race. But he's still leading the points, 1 point over Blaney, 4 points over Byron, 8 points over Harvick. It is tight as shit up top. Which that's another thing. You know, that was my main, like, the number of times today that I heard Ross Chastain is leading the points, and that was the response to any of my tweets about Chastain. You know what? He has one bad race. He's in 6th. He's in 5th. But I get it. He's leading the points now. So we got Chastain, Blaney, Byron, Harvick, Truex, top 5. Bell, Reddick, Hamlin, Kez, Kyle Busch. If we're going by points, like I said, apparently we're handing out championships in May. That means Kyle Larson's the 11th best driver in the series. He's 11th in points, 69 points. Nice. Behind the leader.
I just want to point this out. William Byron had that 60-point penalty. He'd be almost a full race clear of first place without that penalty.
That's not to go back to Charlotte, but I'm going to. Byron, you know, his pit crew was insane. You have they had the number 1 pit stall, and they were fast as shit all day. Is it concerning that he wasn't able to win that race?
No,
or do more.
He didn't have the best car. He was a 3rd or 4th place car. You know, I think Reddick was better. I think Truex potentially could have been better had he had track position at the right times. I think Keselowski was in the mix. There were other guys that were better than Byron. I think just barely. But you're right. His pit crew was awesome, and he had that first pit stall. And at Charlotte, that out timing line is so close to the end of the last pit stall or the first pit stall, whatever you want to call it, the one William Byron had, that Jim Sonis from Number Fire, follow him on Action Network app at Jim Sonis. He and I basically we had our own little air quote gambling thing in DMs, like Twitter DMs. We were like, Byron's in 3rd place or 4th place. What's his odds of coming out first on pit road? Because that first stall was so important. We calculated between 4th and 5th was the breaking point, where if he was in 4th and he had a good pit stop, he'd probably win the race off pit road, but not if he was in 5th. And every time he won the race off pit road, it seemed, because he was always in the top 4. So, but then he kept dropping back. We would drop back to 3rd. He'd drop back to 4th. So I don't think he had a top 2 car. He at best had a 3rd place car. I'd say probably a 3rd or 4th, maybe even a 5th place car. So it doesn't concern me that he, air quote, only finished 2nd just because he didn't have the car. And that's okay. I mean, all of Hendrick Motorsports kind of missed it. I mean, Kyle Larson, they missed it. They made wholesale changes to that car partway through the race. Bowman was never really a factor. Chase Elliott was never really a factor. He kind of got some track position there, which is what got him up there around the top 10 at one point. But he wasn't really on speed a factor either.
No, and it goes back. We saw at Kansas that was kind of, I want to say, the first race this year where it was a big shift in, okay, Hendrick isn't the dominant team anymore. The Toyotas at Kansas overtook them. Same thing. I feel like the gap kind of widened. I feel like the Toyotas and, Blaney, but the Toyotas were definitely faster than Hendrick this week at Charlotte. What sucks now, though, is we don't get another mile and a half till Kansas in the playoffs. If I'm reading this schedule right, let me make sure. Yeah, Kansas in the playoffs. Yep. So we get Kansas, Texas, and Las Vegas. Those are the last 3 mile and a halves. We're not going to see another mile and a half till September.
Yeah,
so
sucks.
Yeah,
it's funny because 3 years ago we wouldn't have said it sucks. We'd been like, hallelujah. Now we say it sucks.
Yeah. Now we got Nashville and or not Nashville, but Gateway and Sonoma and then off week and then Nashville. So, oh man, it's something. But looking further at the standings, Chris Buescher sitting there in 12th, more top 10s this year than Kyle Larson, who once again boomer bust. He's been boomer bust all season. He's either going out there winning the race or he's wrecking out. Seems like only 7 lead lap finishes in 14 races, which obviously has DFS potential. Especially he was once again the highest owned driver this week.
Yeah,
and rightfully so. We didn't get practice or qualifying. The race was supposed to be on Sunday night, ended up being on Monday afternoon. A lot of variables that went into this race that kind of changed things. But overall, any major surprises to you sitting here in points after 14 races? I'll tell you what, Joey Logano is sitting 14th. I'm not going to stop talking about this. This is I don't understand why we're not talking about this drop. He was the champion last year.
Yep. No,
he's averaging a finish of
Penske as a whole aren't where they've
17.1.
been. Blaney's had some good, consistent finishes, which has helped him, but he's not been great. Blaney himself has only won one stage this year, other than the race win, and that was in Charlotte. So his only stage win was the race he dominated. But Logano has been worse, and he's also had more problems. He hasn't been as consistent as Blaney. So he's had 3 DNFs, another 30th place finish, a 28th place finish. Not good for them. You're right. And so Penske as a whole has been down, and then you add in Joey Logano's problems that he's had this year. That's what's putting him on the bubble here. If he'd been more consistent, like if he just brings his car home in 12th every week, like where he about is in speed, give or take a little bit, he'd be fine, but he's not doing that. He's having a lot of really bad finishes.
Mm-hmm. He hasn't had, so right now he currently has an average finish this year of 17.1. He has not had that bad of an average finish since his last year at Gibbs, which was 17.4. So just
what did he have in the I think it was the 20, there was some disastrous season with Penske where he won a race and then they got a major penalty. 2017. What was his average finish then?
15.2.
Yeah. And if you and here's the funny part. The first 9 races of that year, he finished 6-6-4, 31, 5-4, 3, 5-1. So every finish aside from that one DNF was 6th or better. And he still had an average of like 15.4, like you said. So after that insane streak, they got that major like L1 penalty or whatever they call it. I don't even know if they called it back then, an encumbered win. Remember that whole deal?
Yep. Encumbered
He
win.
was absolute garbage. And all of Penske got worse. There was clearly something they were doing to those cars that when they found that encumbered thing or whatever, Penske just got worse. And it really hit Joey Logano hard. He didn't even make the playoffs that year, finished 17th in the points. So, yeah, I would say this is his worst year since 2017 post-encumberment.
Mm-hmm. Other news from Charlotte, Alex Bowman made his return. Did not get to qualify, so he started back in 31st, ended up finishing 12th. We kind of saw with Chase Elliott, it seemed like he's taken some time to get back from that injury. Any concern from Alex Bowman as far as lacking speed, or you think that's just overall, Hendrick is kind of getting back to the field when it comes to their advantage this year?
Yeah, I think this was just a rough Hendrick race. There was no practice, right? And they kind of just missed it coming off the truck, I think. And it was also, like I said, just based off the weather conditions, a race that was going to help Ford more. So I don't see any issue there with Alex Bowman in terms of one race performance in a race where Hendrick struggled and he was, running 15th all day, something like that. Not a problem.
Yeah. How about like Zane Smith though? I know you're high on Zane Smith. One of those teams one of those drivers that just stayed out of trouble all day, ended up finishing top 10. You look at he's made 5 starts this year already. 13th at Daytona, 10th at Charlotte. Finally got a good finish because his other ones were 30th or worse, 31st or worse actually. But that Front Row Motorsports is still making gains every week, doing well. I don't remember who it was on Twitter, but I saw someone saying like, "Oh, Zane Smith finished top 10 in this Front Row Motorsports. If only the other front row car could actually perform." I'm not getting that comparison.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Michael McDowell has been shit over the past since
5 races.
Since Martinsville. Yes, Michael McDowell's been shit, but before that, he was like legitimate teams driver every single week. So
yeah,
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
But yeah, right now McDowell over the last 5 races, 22nd or worse every single race, 26th or worse in 4 of them. So definitely going through a rough stretch for him.
This is possibly the spot to buy low on Chase Briscoe, right? Like we just came off of a run of Dover, Kansas, Darlington, and Charlotte, all using the intermediate package. Mm-hmm. And now we go back to technically Gateway is the intermediate package as well, but it's flatter, so I'm not sure how that's going to play out. We'll talk about that. But then you go Sonoma. Nashville, I guess, will be intermediate. But then after that, like Chicago Street Course, Atlanta Pseudo Speedway, New Hampshire, Pocono's, I guess, going to be intermediate. But again, I don't know how it's going to be different with a big flat track. But then Richmond, I guess, intermediate in Michigan. And then road course, super speedway. So maybe not the time to buy low at Chase Briscoe. I'm very curious with Chase Briscoe how he's going to do it. And I think you and I have this question a lot just through the whole field. This is going to be a hard race to handicap. And I'm not trying to get into the Sonoma or the Gateway preview. I mean, I haven't even done my whine about it. But this is going to be an interesting race to gauge guys like Chase Briscoe. It's the intermediate package, but it's a 1.25 mile flatter track. How is he going to do? Because he's right on that playoff. And the reason I say is because of the point standings. He's right on that playoff cutoff bubble. He's the first one out. And, Bowman's the first one in. I think we all think Bowman's going to be fine. But, Ty Gibbs is right behind Chase Briscoe. Daniel Suarez is right behind Ty Gibbs. Corey LaJoie is in 20th. Damn. That's insane. That's insane. That's so good for Corey LaJoie.
And now he's going to get the race.
What if he wins this? What if he wins this?
Oh,
he legitimately could be in the playoffs.
Give me a Corey LaJoie win.
I want it now. Yeah, let's go.
Nothing would make me happier. But no, here's the thing about Chase Briscoe. Stays out of trouble and somehow just gets finishes. Like
he's
the king of being 33rd in green flag speed, but coming home with a teens finish. It's insane.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. But anybody else here on the standings before we get into whine about it?
No, I think we ran through it all there pretty well as far as surprises, and I think that playoff bubble there where I mentioned Briscoe, Gibbs, Suarez, LaJoie, I think is pretty interesting. Yeah.
So that's going to get us into whine about it this week. I'm going to let you go first, Nick. I have a wine that I'm gonna test for the first time in a while. Do you have a new wine?
I do. You
tweeted out a picture.
I did. I tweeted out a picture of this reserve. I'm trying to find my tweet now. Stalling here for a moment. Dude, why can't I find it now? Let me. Oh, I think it's because I'm all right, here. Let me go through my media. There it is. I found it. Reserving this wine for Wine About It, presented by Aluvabella Wines. So if you're watching the YouTube version of this is the Aluvabella Reserve Collection. It is the Petite Syrah, which is a dry red wine. And I don't have a glass with me, so I'm just gonna chug it straight out of the bottle. So your ASMR is not gonna be as good.
Oh, that was still good ASMR. I hope that came through.
Can you hear the glugs?
I hope that came through after
So this
editing.
one's very interesting. This is a little, and I like this. I personally like this. This is a little acrid in a good way for me. Very, I guess it has a lot of like tannins, and I'm not very good with my flavor descriptions, but I really like it. This is a RotoDoc wine. This is very much a RotoDoc wine. It's not as, I wouldn't say fruity, because I don't think cabs are fruity necessarily, but cabs I feel like have more of a, while they're bolder and a little bit acidic, they still have a good flavor profile. This one's more on the like smokier, darker, muted, a little, like I said, a little acrid, and not in a bad way. flavor profile, which I love. I think it's great. So I'm just gonna keep drinking it out of the bottle. You know, as far as wine about it, and it's just gonna go back to people not living in reality. I mean, we talked about the Chase Elliott fans that are not living in reality, but it goes all across NASCAR, whether it's Bubba Wallace haters, Bubba Wallace lovers, Kyle Kirkwood lovers. It doesn't matter. Like, we all have to come to terms with our reality, like not our reality, but actual reality. We can't just blindly be a fan of this. I mean, we can, that's great, but when your driver fucks up, he fucked up. And I feel like I actually do a very good job of that. If Kyle Kirkwood fucked up, I would be like, Kyle Kirkwood fucked up. But it's just one of those things where I get so frustrated because people just make stuff up and they pretend it's the truth because they want it to be the truth. And it's just ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. I mean, and I alluded to it. It's like, you're literally going to make up TV ratings that aren't actually true because you like Chase Elliott, and you're going to say, well, TV ratings are higher with him when there's literally no data evidence for that. There's literally no evidence. I guess the SMT is more debatable, all that, the actual incident itself is more debatable in terms of like gray area, but let's go to a point, and I didn't get to make this point while we were talking about it. How is it that Chase Elliott said maybe his toe was knocked out or whatever, but then after the contact with Hamlin, after wrecking, he drives that car perfectly fucking straight, even though it's torn up. There's no toe link issue driving that car all the way back around to the pits. Did it magically get knocked back into place? Like, what are people talking about?
Why is nobody calling Chase Elliott out on his shit? Why are other drivers not calling out on his shit? I understand
Denny
he
Hamlin
can't
did, but
sit,
yeah.
I understand Chase Elliott can't sit there and say, yeah, I intentionally wrecked him, but like the bullshit, like I think that's what pissed me off even
Corey
more.
LaJoie came to his fucking defense. Like,
he did.
Come on.
What? Is it because Corey LaJoie is another Chevy driver?
And I think he can't be like, Chase Elliott needs to be suspended. I might get the ride. So he kind of just has to be. But like, you see it all the time. I mean, even Dale Jr. or Bob Hockrus was like, well, there's some differences here. Maybe, No, it was blatantly obvious. Why? And I don't understand why. But I'm not even so much talking about the other drivers, but it's just like the blind fanaticism is ridiculous. But if you want to talk about, and I think this is a good point, and it makes sense, the Corey LaJoies, the Dale Earnhardts, the whoever's coming to his defense, or people just not telling the truth. Like you said, you understand Chase Elliott couldn't, but that's just what they have to do. That's the box NASCAR has put them in, especially after the Denny Hamlin Actions Detrimental podcast where he said, yeah, I let go of the wheel and I put Chastain on the wall. But so, it's been said that Chase Elliott cannot say that now, which is just one of those things. But others should be able to call him out on that. And that almost goes to the point of the blind fanaticism. Like, why aren't the other people calling him out that can? It's same thing. Like, so Vegas Golden Knights fan, and in game 3, a Dallas player in the first minute and a half of a 60-minute game just straight up hockey stick, like cross-check to Mark Stone's head while he's prone on the ice. Oh, I fell on my stick. No, you didn't. Look at the movement. I mean, as all his teammates and whatever come to his defense, nobody wants to call out the bullshit. Nobody wants to look at literally the data, the video, the TV data. It's just, why are people so undata driven? I mean, you can't make up video evidence. You can't make up hard data evidence. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just the hard data. And so, I don't know. I think it's so frustrating that fans, and I guess other drivers and stuff, they just can't call something like it is. They have to just have this blind fanaticism where they find any way, shape, or form to excuse something.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't get it because I went through my years of hating every single thing that Denny Hamlin did. Like, And I feel like that's the opposite, like the complete opposite of these super fans of Chase Elliott, of Ross Chastain, of any of these drivers that they make up things in their head that fits their agenda and they roll with it because they think it's the truth or because it fits what they want it to fit. But so I feel like I was the opposite. You know, I didn't like Denny Hamlin, but at the same time, when he said or did something that was factually correct or made sense, I gave him the credit. Like you need to do the opposite. You need to not give credit where it's due, but call out the bullshit. Like that's what's needed in this sport, in this world, just overall in this world. You know what I mean? Like this is more than just a NASCAR thing. It's an overall life philosophy, I believe. But yeah, I just don't, I cannot believe the number of, I'm flabbergasted by the number of people that are defending this move. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't care what your fandom is. I don't care that you're a huge Chase Elliott fan. That was retaliation. That was a very dangerous move. And if you can't call a spade, then I got nothing for you, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and let me jump in here. Pretty much every Bubba Wallace fan I know, when Bubba hooked Larson, said, yeah, Bubba deserves to be suspended. He fucked up. I don't understand why Chase Elliott fans can't do the same. There are some who have. I'm 100% not saying this is a total blanket thing with Elliott fans. But if you look at percentage-wise, it is very clear that there's a lot of Chase Elliott fans not living in reality. You and I were very consistent. We both said Bubba, she's suspended. And we both said Chase Elliott, she's suspended. Like, there's maybe these super tiny subtle differences in what happened, but at the end of the day, they both intentionally rear hooked a guy on a straightaway at 1.5 miles, or a dog leg in 1.5 miles. So it's just not debatable. And it's certainly, I guess it's debatable until you see the video evidence, the SMT data, you know, that's the thing though. People are that kind of thing.
People are still looking at that evidence and saying, "Oh, it's not real." Like, what?
Well, that's my whole line about it. That's what's pissing me off. Is like, why don't people look at data? Like, look at data. Just look at data. There's no data to support Chase Elliott equals higher TV ratings. There's no data to support Chase Elliott broke a toe link, because then, I mean, unless you think the contact of Denny Hamlin knocked the toe link back in line, he drove the car with no steering issues all the way back around to the pits after that. I mean, people just make shit up, and it's annoying.
Yes. That's all it is. That's all it is. But that gives us something to talk about. It gives us debate on Twitter. Like I said, I've had a lot of people in my mentions today with a couple of tweets that I've made. So, hey, I'm all about healthy debate and everything else.
By the way, and while you were talking there, Stephen Malazzi tweeted out he's just very excited to be on an entry list, and forgot to mention, you know, we sponsored him, so let's all give him support this weekend at Gateway for the truck race. There's only 36 trucks entered, so he is... Oh, no, I'm sorry. There's 38 trucks entered. Bob messed that up. He said 36 entries, but then he shows an entry list of 38, so now I'm confused. But let's hope Malazzi gets locked into the show here. There was 2 withdrawn from the event, so that's what it is. So there's 38 entries, but 2 withdrew. So Malazzi's locked in.
And has he announced his sponsor for that race yet?
Not yet.
He's driving the 34.
Yeah, which is,
I know,
initially what you and I thought he was going to drive when we sponsored him, and then he got put on the 22, which is even cooler.
Yeah. So definitely check out and follow Stephen Malazzi. I think from how the tweet went viral about him and Outback, and, seems like maybe, hopefully, Outback will be involved. That'd be sweet.
That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah,
we'll be going Outback if they sponsor him for this race. 100%.
Yes.
Maybe 100%. All week.
Yeah.
maybe all week. Maybe all month. I don't know. I mean, there's only one day left of the month, but we'll say all month of June or something ridiculous. Now, yeah, sorry, I interrupted your whine about it there.
Yeah, my closest Outback is 50 minutes away, so it's not as easy for me to get there, but I live in the middle of fucking nowhere, Ohio. By the way, for anybody watching YouTube, I'm not struggling to open this. I'm literally just twisting it in my hand. I am drinking the Passion Apple Pie by RotoBaller. And
I'm going to have to try that on my next order.
Oh, here we go.
I'm
going to try to get some ASMR here.
This is incredible.
This smells.
The glass clink was like perfectly subtle too. It's awesome.
So the apple pie that I'm used to would be the one that's made with moonshine and all the like, spices and everything. So this is 10% alcohol. Like I said, Passion Apple Pie. Gonna do a little. I don't know how to drink wine, so I'm just gonna.
I just chug it. Double.
I will note that this is room temperature. This is not chilled. I had it chilled a couple weeks ago and I didn't like it. I really like this. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I walked into this podcast episode waiting, like I was prepared to fully shit on this wine and be like, this is the wine that I don't like, because I have yet to have a wine on this show that I don't like. Room temperature Passion Apple Pie is the move.
I was gonna say, is it the room temperature? Is it the fact that you've already been drinking all day, or not all day, but you said be prepared for drunk Jordan on this show, so.
No, it's not overpowering. It's not too much. Solid hints of cinnamon and just apple, and man, no, it's definitely the room temperatureness of it, because when I had it cold, I was like, this is I couldn't finish a glass. Room temperature though, I like a sweeter wine too. I've learned that I like a sweeter wine. So,
yeah.
Oh man, that's solid. I would drink that. Room temperature though. Remember, room temperature.
I definitely want to try that. I'm gonna have to order that on my next order.
Not my absolute favorite, but it's drinkable, if that makes sense. So
yeah, that makes sense. By the way, I hope people know when I was reviewing mine, when I say accurate, again, I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean slightly accurate, and I love that. Just having that little hint of like, maybe like slightly unpleasant. Maybe it's like a little torture I have of myself or something. I think it's great. I love this reserve wine. I think it's so good. This isn't my favorite RotoBaller wine, simply because I like the bourbon barrel aged Merlot the best, bar none. But this is very good. Very good.
I'm gonna have to try the bourbon Merlot.
You've got to, man. Especially get it like get it not over the summer. Get it more in like the cooler months, because living in Vegas, it got shipped during the hotter months, and so I think it affected the flavor. I liked the bourbon barrel aged Merlot better the first time I had it than the second time I had it, simply because it was so hot. I think it changed the flavor profile. Like when I pulled it out of the box, I was hot, and the cork was actually starting to come out a little bit, just because in Vegas it's so hot. It was still amazingly good. I love it. But for you, Jordan, order it when it gets to the fall. That'll be awesome.
Okay. All right.
Make it your playoff wine.
Yes, playoff wine, absolutely. But yeah, my wine about it, like my wine about it was going to be what your wine about it was. It's people unable to analyze reality, accept reality. It's I don't get it. I'm not going to try to get it. People just they live that way and they understand that way. So my official wine about it, I'm gonna take a little mulligan here. is people jumping the gun when it comes to how good someone is. And part of it, I mean, obviously I've made my statements and I continue to make my statements on Ross Chastain and people saying that he's elite. I tweeted out earlier this week, or earlier today, actually, I said, Bubba Wallace has the exact same number of wins as Ross Chastain. They're actually very similar. They both have a super speedway win, which I consider illegitimate, and they have a legitimate win. Bubba Wallace was a runaway win in his win, which was an actual legitimate win, whereas Ross Chastain needed to wreck people to get his win. But let's stop jumping the gun on what constitutes elite, what constitutes very good. Let's stop doing that. Ross Chastain is not elite. Bubba Wallace is not elite. I'm not tweeting these thoughts to sit here and say that Bubba Wallace is elite. I'm trying to say that there are very few drivers in the field that are elite. And no matter what stats or what numbers you want to pull that makes you think that they're elite, like Ross Chastain leading the point standings. No, that okay, if you're going by that, if you're saying that Ross Chastain is elite because he's leading the point standings and because he did that insane move at Martinsville to get into the Final Four, which, by the way, he would not have been in the Final Four if he did not do that move. Let's get that straight. He would not have been in the Final Four. He would not have finished second in the points if he did not do that move.
Game the system a little bit, yeah. It sort of gamed the system. I mean, it was fair, but at the same time, it's the only time it's ever been done, and then they had to shut that down.
Exactly. If you sit here and say that Ross Chastain is elite because he's leading the points right now, then Kyle Larson is the 11th best driver in the field. You can't, there's no, well, no. If you are solely saying that Ross Chastain is elite because he's leading the points, then Kyle Larson is 11th. And let's just stop jumping the gun on these people. We see it too much. Just like Ty Gibbs is not elite. Ty Gibbs has the potential to be elite. Ross Chastain has the potential to be elite. They are not elite.
I have a question.
They're not elite. What?
Is Tyler Reddick elite?
No.
I didn't think so. Is Ryan Blaney elite?
No.
I didn't think so. Good. Is Kevin
I
Harvick
reserve
elite
elite.
right now?
Right now, no. Was he elite? Yes.
Was he? Absolutely. Gazillion %. There's very few elite drivers right now.
Who are your elite drivers right now?
Right now, obviously Kyle Larson. And
Kyle Larson,
the guy could have won 5 or 6 races. Obviously, we have to put in William Byron, given he would be not only the points leader,
I'm right there with you. Yep.
But also all the wins, all the stage wins. I mean, he's kicking everybody's ass in stage points. Now, I know Ross is second, and so that's an argument in his favor there, but that's not my point. Like, the whole point is Byron is so far ahead of everybody this year, he's elite. I don't know if I have a third elite driver.
I would say
I think you could argue a couple others.
I would say 2 years ago, Chase Elliott, 100% elite. Now,
yep, yeah,
I don't think he is.
A lot of that probably comes down to his injury. I will give him that. Can't really argue for Denny Hamlin right now. Can't really argue for Truex right now. Christopher Bell is a very unique case. He's kind of borderline elite. He has a lot of wins. He has as many wins almost as anybody in the last calendar year.
Okay. So last 36 races. Leaders and wins. There are 5 drivers with 4. Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott. Mm-hmm. William Byron is sitting there with 3. Yeah. Kyle Busch has 2.
Because he was testing last year. Remember, because he already had his 2 wins. It's like if we go back to the beginning of last year, like in the next gen car. Byron has 5 wins.
So here is my final point on elite. Okay. We saw Jimmy Johnson be elite for all those years. We saw Jeff Gordon be elite for all those years. I don't think that there is more than 1 or 2 drivers for multiple 1, 2, 3 years at a time that can be considered elite, because this field,
I agree.
These cars are so equal. This talent is so equal right now. I don't think that you can place anybody into the elite category outside of someone like a Kyle Larson or what we're seeing this year with William Byron. William Byron this year is elite. Kyle Larson this year, despite his struggles, is elite. But guys like Ross Chastain, they're not elite. Guys like Tyler Reddick, they're not elite.
They're good. We're not saying they're bad. They're not
very
elite.
good. Yes, Ross Chastain is very good. And I will sit here, and I've said it for the last month. I said, Ross Chastain rattles off 3 wins. I will start talking about him as being elite. Until then, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not what happens. No.
100% agree with you.
But yeah, this race car is definitely as NASCAR wanted and as NASCAR expected, and as we've seen, has closed the gap. But at the same time, there are still a couple drivers that are a little bit head and shoulders above everybody else. Now, with that being said, do I ever see the point, or do I ever see drivers getting to that point of being truly this far ahead of the rest of the field? No, I think those days are gone. We're not going to see it. Could Kyle Larson get there? Yes. Could William Byron get there? Maybe. I think the best chance though is Kyle Larson.
A healthy Chase Elliott again as well, I think is certainly possible.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the guy last year. There's no doubt about that. He was the best driver last year. But I agree. I think it's those 3 Hendrick guys. I think Christopher Bell can get there. He's so consistent. He just needs that like little extra. I think Tyler Reddick can get there. Especially if you win on JGR, not 23-11. I think Tyler Reddick could get there. But at the same time, then you get all these guys eating into each other. So who really becomes elite? But I do agree with you. I think we need to adjust our definition of elite for the times. Instead of being Jimmy Johnson dominant or Jeff Gordon dominant or Dale Earnhardt dominant, maybe you have to be like slightly below that level of dominance dominant. You know what I mean? To be elite, because there's so much more parity now than there was. Even when Jimmy Johnson was amazing, even when Jeff Gordon was amazing, and especially back in the day, Dale Earnhardt, Kel Yarborough's, Darrell Waltrip's, there was a handful of elite, absolutely 100% elite drivers, but they didn't have as much competition as they have now. And so we kind of have to readjust our definition of elite as well.
I think that's the best way to put it and I think that's where I struggle with whether these drivers are elite or not. Like someone like a Tyler Reddick, he does not have the consistency to me to be elite, but does he have the talent and the potential? Absolutely. I don't think anybody can argue that.
And he only has 1 win outside of a road course, which I'm not taking that away from him, but it is very much a specific specialty as far as his wins have come. He probably could or should have 1 or 2 more on actual ovals, and it hasn't worked out. So I'm not totally discrediting that side of things, but right now 3 of his 4 wins are on road courses. It's a very specific kind of win that he's had, by and large.
And, obviously people can say Chase Elliott was the absolute number 1 on road courses, but here's the fact of the matter. He has 2 wins at Dover. He has a win at Pocono. He has a win at Phoenix. He has a win at Nashville. He has a win at Martinsville. Like, that is the difference between a guy like Tyler Reddick and a guy like Chase Elliott.
Absolutely. Kansas, I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
He's got some super speedway wins, which I know you don't count, but like as a whole body of work, it's better if you win a couple super speedways than don't, right? Like Martin Truex Jr.'s never won a super speedway. That's kind of a knock on him. You'd think after 50, 60 tries, you'd win one.
That's the difference with me, though. I don't consider that a knock.
I don't consider it a knock, but what I'm saying is you can't knock a driver for winning 6 super speedways. Like, how can we say just like if Blaney has 6 super speedway wins, they don't count? Because they do. He's specifically especially good at that type of racing. Why doesn't Martin Truex Jr. have 6 wins?
I guess the way I look at it, like, and the reason that I say that Chastain's a win, super speedway win is illegitimate is because, like, Trevor Baynes won a Daytona 500. Like,
of course, I totally agree with you here. But what I'm saying is, if you have 2 guys who have 50 super speedways under their belt, one of them has 0 wins and one of them has 6 wins, that's not a lack of skill. That's not 6 flukes versus.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Like eventually the sample size becomes enough. It's not completely unpredictive super speedways, right? If it was, we'd have more JJ Yeley's and BJ McLeod's winning, but we don't. We'd have more Michael McDowell's winning, but we don't, right? Like Michael McDowell has only won 1 super speed race for all the hype he gets. He's not actually that good at super speedways. He's good at surviving, but he's not good at taking the lead.
Right.
He only won the race because he led 1 lap because the 2 guys in front of him wrecked on the last lap of the race. He would not have won that race if Logano and Keselowski didn't take each other out. And all of a sudden, he's 40-1 across all the books because he won 1 fluke-ass race. So I agree with you on the illegitimate part on that. What I'm saying is we can't take away, though, the fact that there are some guys who are just fucking good at super speedways, and we can't totally discount that. We can't say that doesn't count.
Well, and Keselowski's a good, example there.
Yeah,
very good. He was great at Talladega earlier in his career, and he ended up, he's obviously had a Hall of Fame career overall. So there are certain drivers, but I guess my biggest point is if you're making the point that he has a couple wins and they're both super speedway wins or one of them's a super speedway wins. I'm not going to count it.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
That's where I have an issue.
Absolutely. No, I definitely agree with that. I'm just saying I can't completely discount every super speedway win. I think as a part of a body of work. Yeah, you are. And I think you're right on target there though. If it's a 1 win super speedway, that's more of a fluke than anything. Than if it's part of a consistent body of work of super speedway wins, which is why I actually do kind of credit Chase Elliott with all those super speedway wins because he's done it. Just like I credit him with all those road courses. But to your point, he's also won at Dover, at Kansas, at this, that, the other track, right? So it's not like he's fluking one type of track either. Whereas Reddick is more. I'm not saying Reddick's fluking those. He's so good at those. But it's only those essentially outside of 1 win so far. So it's a fun debate, and you make excellent points on all of this because I think what it takes to be elite is being great everywhere. And maybe that's the one knock on Kyle Larson. He's never won a super speedway, right? And he's actually kind of bad at them.
Yeah. He's never. Yeah. We've never talked about Kyle Larson. I can't remember the last super speedway race in the last 10 laps where we're like, oh, Kyle Larson could win this. And knowing me, it's probably been Talladega this year, or Daytona this year, where he was up there. But yeah, he's again though. I just don't think it's a knock, but it's definitely a debate as far as elite goes, and 100%. I think the definition of elite is completely changed. And I honestly probably need to adjust my definition of elite because my thinking is still I feel like a boomer right now. My mindset is still stuck in how it was and not how it is.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
But yeah. That is going to wrap up this week's Wine About It though. Make sure you check out, and guys, I wanted to shit on this wine so much, but I couldn't. I wanted to. I was so pumped up to be like, this wine is fucking awful, and here I am.
Maybe I'll order a wine I know I will dislike and just review.
Right,
that
like I know for a fact when I drink like that wine or the bourbon barrel,
I don't think you'll like this.
I know I'm not gonna like them. So
I think you will like the bourbon barrel aged Merlot if you like bourbon.
I don't like bourbon, so
oh, well, then you're not gonna like that. Fuck that. Never mind.
Exactly. But yeah, check out Luvabella Wines, luvabella.com, or I think it's Luvabella Wine. Find them. You'll find the link. I tweeted out. I put it in the YouTube video. Find them in stores. Get them shipped to you. Do something. I know there's
Luvabella.com.
Yes.
And here's the thing. They can ship to you. You can order online. I see people like, oh, we don't have them in New York or wherever, or wherever. You can still order online and have them shipped to you. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes, as long as your state accepts it or whatever. Yeah. And I think you get a discount if you order a full case online too. So.
We need a Stacking Dennys discount code. Let's talk to them about that.
Ooh, yes, I will do that because I feel like there's plenty of people on Twitter that have ordered this wine or tried this wine. So
yeah, there I've seen several, and they're awesome. They support us. They support all the NASCAR stuff. I mean they were sponsoring Malazzi. So they are very, very, very wonderful people to work with and very supportive. And for real, like Jordan and I give our honest reviews of these wines. And by and large, we've been incredibly positive about the specific wines. We all have our own tastes, but I can guarantee you will find something you like from Luvabella Wines.
100%. But that's going to wrap up this week's Wine About It. We're getting into Gateway. World Wide
Technology. We didn't plan that at all.
I hate this track name.
Me too.
It's Gateway, whatever.
To be fair, this actually produced a pretty good race last year. As far as, the racing itself, but the track name is ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't watch last year's race. I remember because
that was the race where that's where the whole Ross Denny stuff started. And then he hit Chase as well. And this is so funny because this is the race where Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott came together to tag team Ross Chastain. And now, once again, Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott are mortal enemies. So it's all coming full circle at Gateway here. Chase Elliott suspended. This is the track where the Denny-Ross beef started. Chase Elliott had beef with Ross there. The best part about this was when Ross wrecked Denny and when he wrecked Chase Elliott. Both Denny and Chase Elliott hounded the shit out of him, but didn't touch him once. But they made his life hella difficult, and that's how you get payback. That's how you get payback. You make somebody's life difficult as fuck. Now, did it work? I don't necessarily think so, because I believe Ross finished still like 6th or 8th or somewhere up there. But at the same time, he was a top 4 or 5 car that day and would have finished a lot better.
Yeah, so looking at last year's results, Joey Logano got the win. Kyle Busch probably had the best car all day. He led the most laps. He finished 2nd. Kurt Busch finished 3rd. Ryan Blaney, Eric Almirola rounding out the top 5. As far as lap leaders, Kyle Busch 66, Truex 42. Michael McDowell led 34 laps in that race. Chase Briscoe led 27. He started on the pole. Austin Cindric, who started 2nd, led 26 laps, and then Logano, who won the race, led 22. Obviously we have one race to go off of as far as previous data from Gateway in the Cup Series. What kind of tracks are we looking at as far as similar data to look at? Short flat says Phoenix, Richmond, New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, yeah.
But
then you get,
as you've alluded to, the weird part about this week is the package. Intermediate package running this week as opposed to the short track package, which, I tweeted out earlier today. I'm like, I wonder if books are going to overreact to Ryan Blaney's win at Charlotte and whether they're going to, because Penske has not been good on the short flat tracks this year, but at the same time, that has been the short track package. So what are we looking like? This race, I have no interest in betting this race before I see any on track activity. I don't know about you, but
Well, you make the key point here, and I actually made sure to look into this. I have some in my eye, so if I'm just like doing stupid shit on the YouTube video, it's because I have something in my eye. So as far as similar tracks, and I don't think this is necessarily the best way to go about this. I'll get to your point here, what you were mentioning, because this is going to be my point. But I guess if we want to look at similar tracks, we're not going to look at similar tracks this year. We're going to look at Gateway last year. We're going to look at New Hampshire, because last year we had this same aero package, but we also had it at New Hampshire. We also had it at Phoenix. We also had it at Nashville. We also had it at, these similar-ish tracks. Darlington, right? Like Joey Logano won Darlington and Gateway because they're both eggy shaped or true ovally shaped and similar in length, like 1 1/4, 1 1/3. So I don't know. I think we use some of these things from last year, not necessarily this year, given the fact that we have the aero change. Maybe we can use Darlington a little bit, but they're totally different in tire wear, so it doesn't even really help. Like Darlington tire wear is massive. Gateway tire wear it's a newer track as far as its surface, so they're not going to be comparable. So what I'm going to look at is I'm probably not betting a whole lot early this week. Like you said, I'm waiting for practice, because look what happened last year. Practice mattered. Practice mattered a whole fucking lot last year. Blaney and Logano were really good in 5 and 10 lap average. They finished both in the top 5. Ross Chastain should have finished in the top 5. He was really good. Eric Jones had great practice times. He finished in the top 10. Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, these guys all that practiced really well, finished really well, and ran really well. So I'm waiting for practice. I might make a bet or two here or there if there's some ridiculous, stupid value, which we'll probably end up finding. And I'm going to have to record running hot, so I can't just have no picks. I might give 4 leans this week on running hot. But at the same time, this will be the direction I'm kind of leaning and waiting to see for practice. But I have very little interest in betting this race early unless something really stands out.
Yeah, and if we're looking at short flat going back to Phoenix, William Byron had the best car in that race. He ended up, or actually Larson had the best car at Phoenix, but Byron ended up getting the win. Kevin Harvick's always strong at short flats, as is Christopher Bell. Tyler Reddick finished 3rd in that race. Ryan Blaney, he had a good car that race. He finished 2nd. He did not have a second-place car. It's the typical guys, if we're looking at short flat tracks, that were good. And that's another part or a point that I'm trying to make. Logano won this race last year, but Penske does not have the speed this year. This year, so far, it's been Hendrick Motorsports again, and the typical guys, Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell. If I'm going to fire on anyone early on in the week, it's going to be if they somehow make Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell longer, then I might consider it. But I just don't see it happening, and I don't think any odds are out as we're talking right now. Obviously, race just got over Coca-Cola 600 on Monday. I don't think
Westgate posted 7 hours ago. It was more than 7 hours ago. They posted before the Chase Elliott news, and they literally posted about 10 minutes before the Chase Elliott news, and they beat Bob Pockrass and Twitter to the Chase Elliott news because, or to at least the Corey LaJoie part of the news, because they'd already shortened Corey LaJoie to 40 before the news came out about Corey LaJoie. So, that's why they're the best. They're the premier sports book in the world, Westgate Superbook. But those are the only lines I've seen so far. Caesars actually is up now. So if you go to their motorsports section and then you go to other, Caesars has odds up for outrights now. But those are the only ones at this point. As far as I've seen. I haven't checked everything, and I'm not going to... Well, now actually Caesars is no longer under other. Now it's under the NASCAR section. But so Caesars, William Hill, and then Westgate Superbook are the 2 I've seen so far. If we look at Caesars, Christopher Bell 11-1, Kevin Harvick 10-1. So I'd certainly be much more interested in Bell than Harvick because I think Bell's run better overall this year. And in last year, and I just think that JGR team is better. And this is his track type. Not that it isn't Kevin Harvick's track type, but if we look at Westgate Superbook, Harvick is 12 and Bell is 10. So if you wanted to shop around, if you're in a Superbook state like I know you are, Jordan, you can get Harvick at 12 and Bell at 11.
I don't hate Bell at 11. I really don't.
I don't at all. I don't hate that. It just comes down to, are they going to roll off good and are they going to practice well? Remember, it's a 300-mile race. It's not a 400 or 500-mile race. So it's more important to roll off well, which is also why I think practice matters a little more here.
That is a very good point. But I feel like, Caesars usually has shit odds, and that's why I'm kind of excited to see what the other books offer, because right now they have Harvick at 10, Hamlin at 10, Truex at 10, Bell at 11. Like, I feel like I understand that Larson and Byron are rightfully the favorites, but I don't think there's that big of a gap for those to be Larson 4-1, Byron plus 550, and then all of a sudden you jump 10-1 to
10-1 on
Hamlin.
Everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, that's, if I, gun to my head.
The thing. So Superbook has Larson 5, Byron 7, and then everybody else 10 or longer. So that's even better, right? Instead of 4 and 550, 5 and 7, and then everybody else is 10 or longer. But you're right. Like, it just seems way too long. I'm also curious somebody about like an Eric Almirola. I think he finished 5th last year, and these tracks are kind of good for him in general. But he's 50 at Caesars, he's 40 at Superbook. So like early week, I'm not interested in these things, but there's definitely drivers I'm like going to keep an eye on. Remember last year I said Eric Jones was top 10 in speed the whole race, the whole weekend. He's 200-1 right now. Now, granted, and we talked about this was a point I made this past week, which you retweeted. Legacy Motor Club has been better at the intermediates, but worse on this shorter, flatter track package. But now we have like a combination where we have like a short flat, but an intermediate package. Like, what happens there? Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's 200-1. Like, does this play into his hands at all? He's been like, he was good at Richmond, right? Until he crashed for no reason of his own, or had problems or whatever it was. There's some long shots that are interesting that I'm not going to bet as like outrights, but I think would make great top 10, maybe ridiculous top 5 odds type deal. But at the same time, based off what we saw last year, we should wait for practice. The problem is books will be able to adjust, but they tend to adjust more for qualifying than they adjust for practice. So we'll have to see.
And also books like FanDuel, they tend to
leave stuff open during practice.
Leave stuff open during practice. If they leave it open for the first half of practice, I mean, you just have to be quick and be able to analyze those practice speeds as they're going on.
Yep. Yeah, we have the FanDuel in Nevada. We have the FanDuel equivalent, which is Boyd. They always have the same lines. They always have live odds, etc. The same, like literally identical odds makers. I think it's the same odds provider for both of them. I don't think they just rip FanDuel lines. I think there's like kind of like the Canby books. They all have an odds provider, which is Canby. I think Boyd and FanDuel have the same thing here in Nevada. But I mean, it's the same thing. I'll see Boyd lines open live during practice.
Yeah, so looking at green flag speed last year, Kyle Busch was number 1. Blaney, Logano, Almirola, Truex was top 5. Some surprise, though. Number 6, Austin Cindric, who finished 11th. He was 6th in green flag speed at Gateway last year. Is he someone to keep an eye on this year? But once again, Penske was a lot better.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing with Eric Jones, right? Like he was so good last year, but this team Legacy has taken a step back at these types of tracks. So, and that was the other thing. Like Austin Cindric had a really good 5-10 lap average. It was basically him, Blaney, and Logano 1, 2, 3 in whatever order. He won a stage. He won stage 1 last year in this race. He started second, ended up winning the stage, and I think he got around Chase Briscoe for the stage 1 win. So there's potential here, but the problem is you have to roll off the truck good here to do that. So tough to say. I don't think it's going to be a bad track for him at all, but it's like, is this going to be a bad track for Penske because of the shorter, flatter issue, or is it going to be more like the intermediate package where they still haven't been great, but at least they've been better, especially if the weather conditions permit. Now, this is going to be an important track because, we have the shorter, flatter deal, a mile and a quarter. What helps you get through these corners? Grip, downforce, that kind of thing. So we're going to have to look at the weather conditions as well. I think that'll tell us a lot going into the weekend. So, if I look at Gateway, Illinois, weather, if I just Google that real quick, 7-day forecasts, let me click over here. Yeah, it's looking pretty hot. Looking pretty hot. Sunday I see 93-degree temperatures.
Jesus.
That's not going to help the Penske's.
At least there's no rain in the forecast, though, is there? And even like Saturday with practice and qualifying, I think.
Absolutely no rain in the forecast, I think, for any of these. I mean, we're talking 4, 5, 7, 2% on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Friday, right? Like, what I think this will help is the Gibbs cars because they've been so good with tire wear, long run speed, right? So I think this could be a Gibbs race on Sunday with some Hendricks, of course, mixed in. I mean, there's no doubt Kyle Larson, William Byron will be in the mix. Maybe Ross Chastain and will be in the mix. I don't know. But I think we're looking at a Gibbs long run type race.
That's so that was one interesting thing last year was Kyle Larson wasn't that good. He was 14th in green flag speed. He finished 12th. Currently, Superbook has Truex versus Larson. Truex at plus 120. That's the only one that I was looking at that kind of jumped out at me like, yeah, I could bet that. It's like Christopher Bell.
I could get on board with that for sure. I can get on board with that. Actually, that might be one of my early bets. And again, we're going to. It's 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to the physics because the only reason I'm going to the physics this week is because we don't really know as much what to expect. Charlotte, everybody felt like they knew what to expect, and I specifically had this physics angle. I told you Monday before we recorded Stacking Dennys on Tuesday, and it dropped on Wednesday. I was ready with this physics angle. I didn't plan this one. This is like you and I are kind of figuring it out in real time as we're talking, and I think this is going to very much play into JGR's hands and or some of the Chevy drivers / teams. I don't think it's going to be as good for the Penske's. It does help that it is the intermediate package. It certainly helps the Penske's in that regard because that's a little more downforce generated, a little less sliding through the corners. But this could be another Chevy / Toyota race for sure.
And I don't think anybody would be surprised by that because Toyota's obviously
makes me like Bell 11-1 more too.
I might end up fucking betting that, and I don't want to.
Exactly, dude. That's the whole problem with this race. Is like that feels like the best bet or one of the best bets, but we don't really want to pull the trigger.
Right. And I keep like comparing it. If we were at New Hampshire, or I'm just going to use New Hampshire, would I be jumping it at Christopher Bell at 11-1? Probably not.
Absolutely.
Like I'm not.
Oh, not. New Hampshire, Christopher Bell's, that's one of his best tracks, period.
I know, but like 11-1 to me is fringe. If he's in the team,
I'd be all over Bell at 11-1 at New Hampshire.
Okay.
If we get New Hampshire and he's 11-1, I'm betting him right away.
Did you say Canby Books already open? They have Harvick at 13.
I didn't look at Canby Books.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me check that out. I was pulling up FanDuel, but they haven't posted yet. But yeah, no. I mean, look at Christopher Bell. He won New Hampshire last year. He finished second in New Hampshire the year before. If we go to Xfinity, he won New Hampshire, dominated, led the most laps all 3 years. New Hampshire's his best track. If we look at the Truck Series, first and second, dominated, led the most laps in the race he won. New Hampshire's literally his best track.
New Hampshire was not a good example for me to talk about Christopher Bell there.
That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, for anybody that just that's only listening for our bets, if I had to bet someone right now, it'd be Christopher Bell 11-1. I think Nick's on that as well.
I agree. I'm not. I haven't. I'm not necessarily sure I will. I might. I just kind of need to dig in more. Obviously my models run, but like really look into things and.
That or Truex. Truex is there for me. You look at the fastest cars here last year. It's Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, top 3. Kyle Busch isn't in that car anymore. Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano have taken a step back this year on the short flats. Okay, that eliminates those 3. Then you got Eric Almirola, who was in 4th. He ain't winning this race. Well, he could, but as far as like true contenders, he's not going to be there. Then it's Truex, who was in 5th. Already said I liked him. Cindric, don't think he's there. Again, Penske, and then Bell. So that's why I like Christopher Bell. This is my thinking on Bell.
Is this an Alex Bowman 30-1 race?
Is Alex Bowman 30-1?
At the Canby books. You were mentioning that they're up. He's 30-1 at the Canby books. Is he not uninjured enough? Or, Bubba's 30. I don't know. I'm just
Briscoe's 30.
Yeah, but fuck that guy. I mean, it's the intermediate package. I cannot get on board with Briscoe right now. Not fuck him like I hate him. I like him. I like Chase Briscoe. I think he's fun. But in terms of betting him at 30, yeah, I can't do that. No chance. Is this a Corey LaJoie 40-1 race?
I'd love to see, that's the only thing I want to see this weekend is Corey LaJoie win. I would.
This is a great week to not bet.
Yep. I agree 100%. Like, there's your betting analysis, people.
I would rather see Christopher Bell be fast in practice and bet him 8-1 than bet him right now at 11-1. I will say that.
I agree with that.
Because that's more data. That's more assurance. That's going to affect my model. And I think if he's fast in practice, I believe he will be even better value at 8-1 in my model than he is at 11-1 right now, which is, by my model, super thin value.
What about a guy like Tyler Reddick?
He's interesting to me too. To be fair though, I think I'd rather have Bubba at 30 than Reddick at 16 or something.
Reddick's he's 13 at Canby Bucks.
16 at Caesars. So 16 is the longest you can find Reddick at, and 30 is the longest you can find Bubba at. So it's one of those things where I don't think there's as much of a difference between Bubba and Reddick, especially here, where I would be like, okay, I'll bet Reddick 16. If I wanted to bet somebody from the 23-11 camp, I'd just bet Bubba at 30.
Yeah, I'm not there on Bubba.
I'm not either, but that makes me also not there on Reddick.
Right. I wish we had any top 10s odds, but obviously, books are being slow.
So Superbook has, like you said, race matchups. It has that Truex plus 120 versus Larson. It has a Bell, Hamlin, Harvick, Chastain group. Not really interested in betting that group. Blaney, Logano, Reddick, Kyle Busch. I think maybe looking at Reddick or Kyle Busch there could be interesting if the Penske's struggle, especially with the heat. I think a Reddick, Kyle Busch, one of those two, or maybe both of them, makes sense. Of course, it's hard to risk $200 to win, to lose one of those $100 and then make $280 or $285. How about this fucking bet? This group: Bowman, Briscoe, Keselowski, Bubba. Like, I feel like ordinarily I'd just smash Bowman in this group.
Even then, though, I can't rule out Keselowski.
I agree with you. Oh, I totally agree with you. I'm just saying ordinarily I feel like I'd smash Bowman, no back injury concerns.
Yeah.
But it's the issue of the track versus the package. If this was a short track package, we'd have a lot more clarity here. It would actually help Chase Briscoe. But without it, it's a lot tougher. Suarez, Almirola, Gibbs, Buescher as a group. I don't really see anything I want to bet there. Maybe Ty Gibbs at 3-1. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, Almirola is good at these types of tracks, like we said. And then, not a shitbox group, but a bottom middle tier group. Gilliland, Gregson, Burton, McDowell.
That's tough.
That is tough. Like I just don't want to make any bets this week.
I would. What are the odds on McDowell there?
McDowell's plus 270. So in a 4-car group, I mean the juice is winning here. Gilliland's 260, Burton's 270, McDowell's 270, and Gregson's 285. And 3-1 would be average. So they're getting hold on every single driver.
I can't believe Gilliland's the favorite there.
I can't either. I mean, I get he's going back to the 38, but I still can't believe he's the favorite there. It's a great track for him, but I don't think it's a bad track for Burton or McDowell and Gregson. I don't think it's a bad track for any of them. And if anything, hot and slick. Gregson loves hot and slick conditions, but I think it tends to be more on steeper type tracks.
Yeah, so McDowell this year, 13th at Phoenix, 19th at Martinsville, 6th at Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's McDowell all the way in that group if I had to bet it.
I agree with that. The only thing I would question is the weather. It is going to be hot, and that does not help the Fords. But I think I agree with you. I think you got to go with McDowell if you pick something from that group, or Gregson. But it makes me just not. I the more I look at this, the less interested I'm in betting. Here's one. What about Toyota plus 245?
I'd take that.
It's Chevy 110, Ford 245, Toyota 245.
Why is Ford what?
I mean, they have more cars, right, than Toyota, but I don't know. I think they're looking too much at last year and not enough at what's happening this year.
Yeah. Give me Give me Bell at 11-1 and Toyota
245. Those are probably, I agree. I think those are probably the two best bets. And like you said, Truex over Larson plus 120. Like, there's things out there, but again, at the same time, a lot of these are pretty thin value.
Yeah, there are bets out here that I'm leaning, but not a single one of these has been like a previous week where we're betting it literally
betting it live on air
as we're recording this. I have not bet anything, and I have no intention to. Maybe Bell, but that's about it. So that's just how it is with Gateway this week. It's how it is with these new tracks and this, short track package. The good thing is, though, like you said, the forecast looks good. It looks like we should get practice qualifying in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're getting whole race weekend in. There's no delays here for Gateway.
That's good.
Malazi's getting in. There's no rain concerns there.
That's awesome.
He got fucked on that one race, Martinsville, with the rain and the shortened race and then the electrical issue, battery, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. All right. You got anything else for Gateway?
No. Might be that time to tweet my random fantasy racing pick.
I can't wait.
All right, here we go. You ready? Is it going to be the 9? What are the odds? Like, normally it would be 1 in 36 would be the odds, but this feels more like 1 in 4 that I'm going to get the 9.
Right? Yeah.
Here goes. I got the 31 of Justin Haley. Justin Haley,
who just set the record for the most miles run in NASCAR in a single day.
Yeah. I think he had a decent race here last year, if I remember correctly. I honestly don't.
Allmendinger did. Allmendinger finished 10th. Haley finished
14th.
14th, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's an angle here. Maybe we look at
so I think the doc block went because I just clicked your link and clicked mine. Mm-hmm. Guess who I got?
Oh my God. You got the 9.
Yes.
I'm tweeting this out. There we go. Oh my God. That's insane. I didn't even spell things correctly because I was so excited. This is awesome.
That is the real doc block. Yep.
By the way, click my link, not Jordan's.
Yes, please don't click my link. I'm deleting my tweet.
I love it. So yeah, looking at the Influencer Cup standings, I'm still in 4th, but the gap is closed from over 50 down to 45. So we got to get on our game here. It is Toby Christie's, I wouldn't say protege, but his employee, Joe Sorigli, who is on my heels. And shouts to Toby Christie. He had a birthday today as we're recording this, so happy birthday, Toby Christie. I have a feeling I will be meeting him soon. Jordan, you don't even know this. I'm going to the Richmond race, July 30th. The Cup race. Yeah. So Action Network has a deal with BetMGM. And we will be there at the race. BetMGM sponsors Running Hot. So we will be at the Richmond race July 30th.
That's
pretty exciting.
I might come and crush your party.
You should. You would be more than welcome. I'm sure we would get you hot pass and all that stuff. All the deal. I can talk to him. If you can work it out, I'm sure we can work it out.
Yeah, I don't think Richmond's that far of a drive for me, so.
No, it's
twist my arm some more, bud.
So the only issue, I used to live in Virginia, North Carolina, that area, and drive to mid-Ohio. Now, you're a little further into Ohio, closer to Indiana than mid-Ohio. But also Richmond's further north than Raleigh was when I would make that drive pretty frequently. So let's do Richmond, Virginia to, I know your city. You don't need to say it on air. But let me pull up the maps here. I'm sorry, just give me a second. This is being stupid. It is, looks like about 8.5 hours, 9 hours, if I have that right.
It's nothing. It's an easy drive.
Exactly. I mean, you drove to Martinsville, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Martinsville's closer. Richmond will be a little bit longer, but same idea.
Yeah, I'm going to have to make that work. Get to Richmond. We'll have fun.
Let's do it. I'll let my team know tomorrow.
Cool.
If you can't, I'm not going to tell them until you're sure you can go, but I'll be there. So I don't even know where that came from, but I forget what we were talking about that caused that, but I'll be at Richmond.
Nice. I'm also, I guess, okay, All-Star Race didn't count, but I'm looking at my last 2 results in Random Fantasy Racing, 9th in the All-Star Race and 5th at Charlotte. I need to stop doing so good. Damn it.
Dude, what the hell? Yeah, you're supposed to like tank, right? You're supposed to be in the underdog standings.
You had a solid 35th place at Charlotte for the Coke 600. You have not had a finish better than 10th since your win at Richmond with Larson. So, man,
I'm
I
just gonna
so
point
wish.
this out. You're doing better than RotoDog now.
Nuh-uh.
Wait, which means you're doing better than me.
I have an average finish of 21.0. No way.
I went to the
Oh my gosh, I am.
Underdogs Cup.
I have 296 points. You have 288.
You're doing better than me. You're doing better than me
And
because RotoDog's ahead of me.
And you have an average finish of 18.8. I'm getting those stage points.
Well, the other problem is, remember, I got Chandler Smith for the Daytona 500, and he didn't even qualify.
Yeah.
So that doesn't even count in my average finish. So really, I have an average finish of 18.8 plus 41st or something out of 14 starts.
That's a good point.
I literally don't even qualify for the Underdog Cup because I didn't qualify for a race, which is actually kind of bullshit. So I'm going to message Steve Luvender and see if I can't get up there. Right, because I have 288 points, which in the Underdog Cup would put me, got to click around here, 288 would put me tied for 261st. Yeah, 261st. And you are 308. And RotoDog is 288. So yeah, I'd just be ahead of you guys in the shitness category.
By the way, the guy that I'm assuming it's a guy, it could be a girl, that is leading the Underdog Cup right now got BJ McLeod for Gateway. So shout out to them for having a shit box.
Remember David Hanks had terrible results, then got that 5th place at Darlington. Well, they got a 28th at Charlotte. They haven't made their pick yet, but they dropped back down on Charlotte. 9 points total from the 34 car of Michael McDowell.
Who is your pick to win?
Well, my pick last week was fucking terrible.
Shout out Ross Chastain.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think I'm going out.
You haven't had a top 5 since your win with Kyle Busch at Talladega.
Damn, that's terrible.
You've had a lot of bad luck through there too, though.
Yeah, I have.
Including Larson at Dover, specifically.
Oh man, that was bad luck. Now, to be fair, Chastain wasn't bad luck. He was just terrible this past week. I should have just picked Blaney.
Okay. Was he terrible, or is he leading the points? Doc, he's leading the points.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be real. Let's if we're gonna be real about calling Chase Elliott fans out. I mean, and I know you're joking too, but like he was fucking terrible last week. Finished 22nd, probably ran 18th all race, something like that. Like he was bad this past week. Daniel Suarez wasn't much better either. He finished 23rd. So, very surprising given they were 2 of the best 3 or 4 cars last year at this very track.
I want to say Suarez had got some damage. He was making his way up during the race. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I feel like he might have got damage. I could be wrong. But yeah, Chastain was just awful all day.
Honestly, this one's really hard to pick. I my gut in terms of like what I would normally say would be to pick Alex Bowman here in this spot because I think he's pretty underrated and feels like a very fun winning pick. But with that back injury, it becomes a little more iffy, although the shorter race probably helps. So instead, what I'm going to do with going to this shorter race thing that we talked about, rolling off the truck well, practice, hot. Sorry, Jordan, I'm going to take Christopher Bell.
Okay, that's fine because I did not have Bell on I wasn't going to pick him.
All right.
I'm going to take his teammate, though. I'm going to take Truex.
I like that. That was literally the other one I was going to pick, so we're on the same page there.
Give me Truex. I'll take that, especially if he's. I don't know if he's running the auto owners or not, but if he is, then I like him even more.
Exactly. There it is.
Definitely, we're on a JGR picks this week, but
it just feels like it. Like they're good at short flats anyway. JGR is.
Truex is running auto owners. Guarantee he's winning. He's leading this thing from start to finish. Start to finish. Truex, lock it in. 10-1. Lock it in right now. Martin Truex Jr. Auto owners insurance. It's over. Don't even run the race. Just give him the victory.
GG. That's about all you need right there.
Exactly. But yeah, it's gonna wrap up this episode. This is a late episode. It's over 1 a.m.
It is. You and I got started late. We had some things. Both had some things come up. So
yeah,
we got a late start.
But yeah, Gateway this week, second ever Cup Series race at World Wide Technology Raceway. I hate that track title. We will be back next week to talk about Sonoma, and then we get an off weekend before we head to Nashville and then the Chicago Street Course. So
real quick, let me jump in here. You mentioned that you hate that track, etc. I thought it was funny. iFantasy Race Ryan was like, I don't even know what to call this track. I could write up like 8 names for it or something. But by the way, this past weekend was the big racing weekend. Indy 500, big congrats to Joseph Newgarden. Indy 500 win. Kyle Kirkwood got on his lid upside down in sparks. Not his fault. Kyle Kirkwood literally had a race-winning car. He could have won that race. He drove from 15th to 2nd on the pit stop before, and he fell back to 6th, but he had a great long-run car. Didn't work out. A tire sheared off his car, hit a parked car in the parking lot in between the grandstands. Literally, there would have been people killed, and this is why I'm so adamant about safety in NASCAR with the loose wheels and stuff. That's why I don't want the shorter penalties. I want the longer penalties. What if a NASCAR hits that car into the stands at Phoenix instead of ingesting it like it happened last year? And that's not Kyle Kirkwood's fault. That's nobody's fault. Those tires in IndyCar, they have tethers that are supposed to keep them on the car. The tether literally got just like chopped in half. So IndyCar is looking at that. But glad everybody's safe there. Formula One was an absolutely terrible race until the rain came. Then it got kind of interesting, but I mean, we all know who was going to win. So greatest racing weekend in the world. But IndyCar is at Detroit this weekend. Don't look at past Detroit data. Don't. They're on a new track now. They moved off of the island into downtown Detroit. Don't look at past Detroit data. Please. If we want to talk about data and stuff like that, do not cite past Detroit results. That said, it is still a street circuit, so you can cite other street circuits. And then, Kyle Kirkwood, Andretti, they've been really good at street circuits. We'll see the tire wear. Road America, 2 weeks after that, is the race to unload on Kyle Kirkwood and Andretti Autosports in general. Newly repaved Road America. Hasn't been repaved in 60 years. So the tire wear is going to be very minimal. Helps Andretti Autosport. So that's where you're going to want to bet Kyle Kirkwood. Andretti had their best result of the year last year outside of Long Beach at Road America. So bet Kyle Kirkwood at Road America. That's my Kyle Kirkwood plug for the week. And that's going to do it for Stacking Dennys. But I do like him at Detroit. But not because of Detroit specifically, but because of street courses.
I can't wait to bet Kyle Kirkwood at Circuit of the Americas. Or Road America, sorry.
Road America. I did that last year too. Me too, man. Too many Americas.
Yeah. Stop including America in your track name. But
exactly.
do not name it. Do not name it Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway, presented by Mickey Mouse. Whatever. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to get that in there last minute.
Drink Louisville Bella wines. That's all we got.
Peace.
See you guys.